many fantastic talks during 3 days of design, so it's wonderful that you have chosen to be here and learn more about the journey that Rosendahl Design Group are on. My name is Nicoline. I'm from Märk, and we help companies define their societal ambition and help them become even more responsible working with the ESG agenda. And I have been today so fortunate to be invited to facilitate this talk, and I have moved aside here so you can see my wonderful panel from Rosendahl Design Group. And they are here to help us learn more about the journey that you are on. And I will make a short introduction, and I will start with you. Henrik, you are the CEO and owner of Rosendahl. Mette, you have been the CEO for the last 3 years. And we have Eva over here, she's the sustainability manager, and we have Tine here, head of design. And before you are allowed to say anything else, I will move in here again and make a short introduction to this talk. Because I think sustainability and responsibility matter more and more for all of us, as citizens, politicians, companies, in society in general. And we are all, I guess, really focused on acting as responsible as possible. We are all focused on acting as responsible as we can for the benefit of the world and also for the benefit of the next generations. But also, I think that even if we do it in different ways, I think that all of us know the feeling of being in doubt about if we do the best thing, what is the best thing to do? Do we do enough? Is it already too late to achieve these major climate goals that we have in front of us? But fortunately, we see more and more companies trying to contribute to solving some of the many challenges that our society faces. And one of them is Rosendahl Design Group. And you have I know I've been working together with you for the last couple of years, and it's really exciting to see you have laid out an ambitious business strategy focusing on ESG, and you have decided to become part of the solution, not the problem, but you have actually decided that you want to make some solutions. Even, I guess, if you sometimes are as much in doubt if it's the right thing that you are actually doing as the rest of us. So it's not that you have all the answers. I'm pretty sure that you will give us a lot of interesting point of views today, rather than list with the right answer. So welcome, and again, welcome to you. And Henrik, I will start with you. You own the company that your father started many years ago, and you're also the CEO today. And Rosendahl is special in a lot of ways, and we will also talk about that. But today, what is the special thing about Rosendahl when it comes to sustainability and responsibility?
Well, and first of all, I would also like to say it's great seeing all of you here, and thank you for coming to this talk, which is quite important, and in a good way we can explain about what we're doing as a company. And now that you say what's special about us, let's always try to have some humility thinking about that. But it's really, sustainability is very much important right now, but actually you could say all along the history of our company, it's been kind of embedded in our DNA. Maybe even before it was really something that everybody talked about. Because right from when my father started the company, we worked with designs that should last many years, not just something that was fashion and the next year came a new model and a new model. So that's always been important, and that's what I think when we talk about sustainability, we often talk about CO2 and the environment, but also designs that last for many years, that's also sustainability. We have actually some very good examples here. We start with actually the monkey first. I've been to a lot of trade shows, and it's always been fantastic. Some people, they come and say they got this monkey 50 years ago. Because that's not sustainability, I don't know what it is. Sometimes it loses an arm or something, then we have a monkey repair kit or hospital where they can have it fixed. But it's something they got maybe when they turned 14 years for the confirmation or something like that. It lasts for so long. That makes me proud every time. Would almost be willing to repair it by hand when they keep it like that. Another example, which is one of our iconic products, the carafe, which actually embeds a lot of our philosophy. That's also, it should be a design that's timeless. It's actually today almost as popular as it was when we launched it. But also one of our philosophies, it should be, can you say, available for the many. It shouldn't be an elitist product that only a few can afford. You can also say that way the impact of our company is much greater because we affect a lot of people. But then also, in order to make it affordable for the many, it should have a reasonable price. And that way you need to sometimes make some compromises. Actually this, I'll let you in on a little secret. It's not so much secret now, a lot of people know it online. But actually, why does the Grand Cru series have its roots? And that is because when my father asked the designer, Erik Barker, to make a water carafe, at that time they normally cost like 500, 600, 800 kroners, which is too much for a water carafe. He said, can you make it for 169 kroners? And he said, that's impossible. But then they figured out we needed to use a bottle machine where you can produce a lot of carafes, very inexpensively, but in a high quality. The problem is, if you use a bottle machine, I don't know, some of you know, then you have two, what you call, forms, or molds coming together. So there's an assembly line. So many people say, oh, that's not pretty, that's not good design. Then my father, with the designer, they said, instead of hiding it, let's embed it into the design. And instead of just having 2 booths, let's make 4 booths. And that's kind of a creative, you can say, innovation that actually creates some new solutions. And that way, it was possible to make this design item to a reasonable price, but really something that people appreciate. And after that, it has kind of become a trademark of the Grand Cru series. But it's always good, and I see also that way today when we talk about sustainability, the environment, it's good to have some, you could also say, creative tripping wires. It shouldn't be too easy because that way it helps you to figure out new solutions to a problem. This is just one of the iconic examples of it. And that has actually, I think, Tine, you're going to explain more about it, how this has been moved into the current design. That was a long answer to a short question.
Right? Yeah. Interesting, yeah. And as you say, Henrik, you have always been responsible in the company. It just takes a lot more to be responsible today than it did like 20 years ago or 30 years ago.
What I also just to add to that was always, and I think part of our DNA also is more doing than showing.
Yeah.
That before we go out and say what we do, then we need to do it ourselves. Why should we do that? Because it's the right thing to do. After that, we can go out and explain about it. And actually, sometimes we have people say, I think part of the process, sometimes when you have all the documentation, say, why don't you go out and explain about it? That's what you see. That's the second part of it.
After you have had these discussions.
First, it's doing it not because it's a marketing tool, but doing it because it's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Mette, as you have been the CEO for the last 3 years and a big part of this journey that Rosendahl is on, and as you just said, Henrik, you are you have proud traditions and products, but Mette, and you are a successful company. But Mette, could you tell us a little about what do you think is the most important thing to be successful also in the future for Rosendahl, of course, but also for businesses?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So one of the things that we have worked on for the last couple of years is exactly to take this responsible way of doing things further on. How can we be a part of the solution and not the problem? And as you just said, the complexity about how actually to act responsibly is much more difficult today than it was. So what we decided was to look into our overall strategy, to vision how could that match a responsible point of view. And we worked a lot of that, so putting the right direction, putting the ambition out there. So we said we want to take Danish design responsible into the future. So putting a light up there, a star. We didn't exactly know how, and it's also we don't exactly know it all the way now either. But starting to have an ambition is a good way of starting. Having an ambition is obviously not enough, because you have to realize some of the ambition at least. So that's 2 other points I think I would put my empathy on. One is, it's not a job that can be done by our head of CR, ESG alone. any longer. It's something that, as Henrik explained, with the rest of the company's DNA, has to be embedded in the values, in the way of thinking, in the way of acting. It needs curiosity, because there's a lot of dilemmas that has to be reached and discussed. So we've used a lot of time in Rosendahl to get it embedded in the whole organization. So one thing to realize your ambition or your direction is to put it into your organization and design it for success. The second thing is have a framework, because it is complex and it's so many things that you need to do, and what to do first, and what would be the right thing, and where would you gain the most impact on the world that we are part of. So we decided to go for B Corp and the B Corp organization, because that's a framework that has a holistic view on responsibility. We all know a lot about CO2 right now, or at least we hear a lot about it, but there's also a social angle to this. There's an organization dimension, there's so many different dimensions, so we've chosen to use the B Corp certification as a framework, and by that way we can slowly but surely put on the building blocks to reach the shining star out there. So I think that's the things that we have done so far, and
that will also help in the future.
Yes, I definitely hope so. I have an eye on this.
Yeah, thank you. And one of the things that you have actually also done is you talk about this clear ambition.
Yes.
You have defined a societal ambition, and you can actually see it over here.
Yes.
That your ambition is to bring Danish design traditions into the future responsibly. And that's something that's guiding.
And maybe if I should add a third point,
Yeah.
work together with your suppliers, with your customers, because of course Rosendahl is a big fish, but it's still a small fish in some things, and we need to do it together. We need to go together in this road, because it's something we all have to be collaborative about and learn, and maybe do a few mistakes and then learn again, and then that's the way we can change the world.
Thank you. Tine, you are head of design. You are making all these beautiful products.
Yeah.
You have some of them, and I know you will show it to us in a second. But this clear ambition, of course you have always had a mission and a vision, but this really focusing on having a clear ambition. I'm a little curious to how it influences the way that you design your products. Is it different today than before? What influence does it have on the way that you are designing?
I think that we realize that it's such a big responsibility to preserve and to develop all our 8 wonderful brands. So we have set out design principles in this process in order to help us, guiding us in our everyday work with the designs when we develop our concepts. And the design principles are also on the board here, so you can have a study of it. But in general, you can say that the design principles will be kind of our positive resistance on an everyday basis. So just check in on the principles, saying, are we doing the right things? Are we moving ahead the way we want to? And for example, is the product relevant? Is it adding something new to our designs? Will it be something that will contribute? Will it be something that takes into a better sustainable material or packaging? Or are we inviting new talents from designers into our brands? Because I think moving on is also not just for materials and packaging, it's also inviting designers in so we can move ahead and we can develop our brands for new generations. And Henrik mentioned the carafe just now. This is the original carafe. We all know it. It was designed back in the early 90s. And it's a cherished item. And it's, I think, in all Danish homes. And now we have moved on with the carafe because it's still an icon. It's something still classic. But we saw the opportunity to take it into recycled glass, also making it in production big facilities. But we had to take some new decisions regarding the design because we weren't able to make it exactly the way we wanted it. But doing that, we actually gained something new because we gained a lighter weight carafe. It's a beautiful color because it is from household recycled glass that has been sorted into color changes. And now we produce it in this lightweight. It's also being improved, so it actually fits in a kitchen door, which is really cool. And the top and the collar that we usually have in the metal version is now in a bio-based plastic. So moving ahead is also changing into new materials, and I think that's how we develop and preserve them.
And it's still really beautiful.
It's really beautiful. And actually, I think it's gained something. It's a great example. And it still holds editor. Yeah.
Yeah. It's also always nice with concrete examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eva, you work as a sustainability manager, and I know that you are daily faced with a lot of dilemmas. You have a lot of different, these are only a few of your many beautiful products, and they are produced from many different materials and under different production methods, which leads to great complexity, as one of you also said. So how does that influence, I'm curious, your collaboration with your suppliers and the way that you choose your suppliers?
Yeah. Well, it depends on, as you know, we work with a lot of different materials. We can see some of them here today, but we have a wide range of materials, and we also have a wide supplier base with a bit more than 100 suppliers. And they range from small workshop-like setups to big corporations. And depending on what supplier you work with, your approach is different. And so trying to influence the smaller suppliers, we have one approach, and the approach to the bigger suppliers is totally different. Also mentioning that some of our suppliers are really far ahead, so there are some suppliers that we can definitely learn from, and both on the social agenda and the environmental agenda. But for example, to take a concrete example again, when working with smaller suppliers, we have a big voice, because often we have a big order size in relation to their production. So a couple of years ago, we were GRS certified, Global Recycle Standard certified, because we wanted to work more with recycled textiles. But to do so, it's not enough with us being certified, so the whole supply chain must be certified. And we didn't really have the supplier base to do that. But instead of switching the suppliers, we decided to then go in and work together with the suppliers, helping them to get through the certification process in terms of supporting the knowledge, as far as we had that, but also financially, too, because they were smaller setups. So that's a way of lifting the knowledge base at a smaller supplier, and also engaging more and having a more close cooperation. But when working with bigger suppliers, as someone mentioned, I think it was Mette, we're a small fish in the sea, so we can't really go in and make demands in the same way. And this is, it gives us an advantage sometimes with the bigger suppliers, for example, with the water carafe in recycled glass, that you need a big setup to be able to handle the recycled glass volumes and so forth. So that is an advantage, but when trying to change something, we can't do it on our own. So that is where the also cooperation with the industry comes in, which is definitely something that we will hopefully and most likely see more of in the future. And that's only the supplier part of it. Then comes the other part of the value chain, which is the customers and the end consumers. And that is also as important, because we can make the most beautiful products in the most interesting materials and responsible materials, but if we don't have the customers and the end consumers with us, they end up in the warehouse. So I think it's likely important with the cooperation and engagement with customers and consumers moving forward to be able to be. So it's two ways.
It's a lot of complex stuff, and also an example of that we can do very little on our own, but with joint forces we can do a lot. And time's flying, and I have so many questions. I hope you find it just as interesting as I do to learn more about your experiences in Rosendahl. And thank you for sharing with us, because that's also one thing I believe, that sharing knowledge is actually what's most important, that we are brave enough to share things that we are working on daily and the dilemmas that we are facing. And also I think it's very obvious that you have many dilemmas that you are facing as a responsible company. I'm a little curious, Mette, what would you say are the biggest dilemmas in your experience in leading a sustainable or a responsible business?
First of all, it's a difficult journey because there's so little we know about how to find the right solutions. So I think we constantly have to forgive ourselves if we go a little bit in the wrong direction, or we have to find compromises to do things, and we also need to learn. So that's the other one is, of course, to find a balance in doing it as is it profit ahead of sustainable solutions, or vice versa. And for me, I think you don't have to go into these kind of compromises. You need to rethink, you need to innovate the way you're doing it, as we did with the Caracal. But that's of course a balance all the time, and it's also sometimes you have to say no, which can be difficult, because you might have the most beautiful product, but you won't be able to produce it in the way that is sustainable with our new criteria. But by allowing yourself to go into these dilemmas, you will always find a new way, and you will always find a solution eventually. Maybe not the first time. So maybe one of the difficult things is to have an open mind, and to be curious about how can we then do it.
Yeah, and maybe also to be courageous.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Can I add something? And also that it's constantly changing. So the bar is being raised all the time. So when you think you've reached a little bit, then exactly.
I have another dilemma as well. It's actually how to be in sync with our customers. Like where are they, when are they prepared to recycle glass? Because if we are way too ahead of the curve, they're not going to buy our products, and then we're not going to make any change in the world. I believe within food stuff, or what you say, food sales, with ecology, it's been a bit the same thing. When are they prepared? I think many years ago in Denmark, when we had cage eggs, when you ask people in a survey, say how many wants to buy cage eggs, I guess you call it, nobody would. But still in the supermarkets, 40% bought it. So when are people prepared to make the change? So really, it seems like now, for example, with recycled glass, now they're there.
I think
10 years ago, maybe.
The consumers do have a positive approach to sustainable products, but I think when they are deciding, should I buy this? And because some of the things that we face is also that doing sustainable products is a little bit higher because there's more work into, for example, for the car. It's household, it's sorted, it's a little higher on the price. So when the consumers have to take a choice, but I think we're in for the long run. We don't do quick solutions, so we actually mean it. So we want to do it.
I had my own real life test at home because we have both of the glasses actually, and I always want to open the cupboard and see which one do I take, and that's actually the recycled one, where it kind of feels good. Because you know it serves another purpose as well.
Of course, it's also with the consumers, it's a dilemma also for the way that you're designing the products, Tine, but is there any other, what are the main dilemmas when it comes to the design process?
Well, I think it is making it clear to the end consumers that this is what the choices they have to make. But we do have some times where we have to decide whether a design should go this way or this other way in order to meet the production facilities. That could be one of them. But we do our best, and we dig into the archives and try to find the best solutions and the best ideas that we bring forward to the new generations.
We are almost at the end of this talk, but I have two last questions with short answers for Henrik and Mette. Very, very short answers. Yes. Yes or no? It can be a little longer.
So,
yes or no. Mette, the first one is for you. How does the future look for this industry?
I think it looks bright. I think actually this industry has started way back. We also see it in the furniture part of the design business that there's a huge collaboration, and it's moving up to us also the way we produce. So I think it looks bright. I think there's a lot of understanding also, as Eva was on, to the way we produce. So maybe we are not yet there where the product is completely in sustainable material or not, but the way we do it, already we've moved so far over the last couple of years or many years in the social aspect of it, how it is the facilities for the one who's producing it for us and so on. Now we're moving into how do we get this. It should be short. So yeah, I think the future is bright. Yes, that's very good. Sorry,
so Henrik, you will get the last word.
So we'll see.
I think that's a lot of focus right now on compliance and new regulations, but I also think that it's important that we maybe go some steps back and sometimes remember and have discussions about why do we do this? Why is this journey important for Rosendahl?
Well, I think almost as I said also in the beginning with our DNA, it's kind of embedded in our philosophy. And I remember it's always good to say, why do we do what we do?
Yeah.
And maybe it sounds a little bit safe, but it's really when we do something, we hope to leave the world a little bit better than when we came into it actually. Not necessarily saving the world, but a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's why we do what we do. Sounds simple, but
are
it's really complicated. But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so
and
because
you're
it's
actually
right
also
thing.
very committed to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's most important. Leave it a little bit better.
And thank you again to all of you who came. We don't have time for questions. Sorry, only my questions. Yeah.
Submit by email.
Yeah, they can come by email. And thank you again for your many interesting points of view. I think it's. I look very much forward, and I think that you also are looking very much forward to following you. And I think it's so important that we have companies like you that who are brave enough and courageous enough, ambitious enough to throw yourself out into something that you don't have the answer to. But you are curious and you dare to do it. And I think that's really important that more companies do that. So, and thank you for all of you for coming. Thank you.